Hello, my name is Ewa Czarniecka-Skubina. This material is prepared in the frame of Safe.org Food Project, co-funded by Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. In my presentation, I'm going to explain you what are the physical hazards in ecological food production. At the beginning, I would like to introduce myself. I am a professor of Warsaw University of Life Sciences at the Institute of Human Nutrition Sciences. I am a food technologist. I have 30 years professional experience both in food industry as a specialist in food technology and as university teacher and scientist as well. My research area is focused on food production, new technologies, catering technology, food quality, food safety, human nutrition, as well as consumer behavior, especially in food service. I am the author and co-author of numerous scientific and popular science articles and books, including books, for example, Food Hygiene Production, Guide for Implementing the HACCP System in Hotel Gastronomy. First, I would like to explain the term of physical hazards. The term hazard is defined as a biological, chemical, or physical agent in or condition of food with the potential to cause an adverse health effect on the consumer. Physical contaminants are additionally matter or alien objects normally not existing in food that cause injury, disease, or psychological trauma to the organism. Their elimination is essential to the production of safe food. It should be emphasized that among foreign bodies posing a physical threat to health safety, they represent a different level of risk and the degree of difficulty in their elimination varies. Physical, non-radioactive contaminants can be divided in three groups: minerals, plants, and animals. The first group is minerals such as soil, stones, dust, metals, glass, fiber, paint flakes, etc. The second group is plants such as weeds, leaves, stems, wheat earth. The third group is animals such as mites, insects, rodents, and fowl. Contaminants from these groups can appear during the harvest of raw materials, during their storage, as well as during food processing. Physical hazards in food processing could be unavoidable, that occurs in food as a byproduct, for example, steams in blabbers. It may also be avoidable physical hazards that are present in food due to the lack of proper GMP-C, for example, glass shards. The physical hazards are related to agriculture crops and storage, incorrect or poor practices in agriculture foods and in material or produce in food processing, incorrect or poor practices in production of animal origin, poor maintenance of building, facilities and equipment, poor hygienic practice of the staff. This slide shows potential physical hazards in ecological production and their sources. Glass pieces usually come from bottles, jars, lamps, utensils, gauge covers, and light fixtures. Glass or transparent plastic is almost impossible to detect in a product and poses an extremely dangerous threat to the consumer. Therefore, the plants should pay particular attention to the elimination of potential glass sources. If possible, it should be replaced with other materials, and where it occurs, it should be properly labeled and checked regularly. Any defects or changes in the glass surfaces should be noted in the documentation. Stones fragments may come from fields and fragments of destroyed buildings. In turn, metal elements such as nails, keys, coins, staples, machinery parts may come from machine parts, fields, villages, farms, or from plant production workers. Physical hazards can include pieces of pests and eggs and insects, as well as contaminants by pests, droppings, feeders, rodent hairs, dead bodies, eggs, and larvae. They usually come from fields and factory production areas. One of the ways to eliminate them is preventive actions, and when they occur, the deratization treatments, disinfection, and hygiene procedures are needed. The source of bones is fields, improper industrial technology, and improper plant processing. Structural elements such as bulbs, paint, fragments of plaster, insulation materials, grease, nuts, and bolts, construction materials can come from improper storage of raw materials as well as final production areas. It is important that all openings, such as windows in the plant, are protected against the penetration of pests such as insects and rodents. For example, covered with protective nets or protective grills. This slide shows other potential physical hazards in ecological production and their sources. This could potentially be fragments of wood coming from fields, land, chests, pallets, boxes, and buildings, fragments of cardboard, as well as pieces of plastic materials. Among other physical hazards, we can mention dust, needles, and feathers from poultry, pieces of bone from meat, seeds, vegetable matter, dirt, stones, and rocks that come from vegetables and fruit cultivation. Now I will explain the role of farm workers and plant production workers in delivering physical hazards to organic food production. Personnel participating in the various stages of ecological food production may cause physical hazards through inappropriate production practices. Items such as jewelry, pens, pencils, hair, fingernails, plasters, cigarettes, and elements of clothing, such as buttons, can get into food during its production. For this reason, it is necessary to wear protective clothing, and it is not allowed to carry any items in the upper pocket of the protective clothing. The wearing of jewelry, such as watches, earrings, clips, chains, wedding rings, or earrings, in food production is strictly prohibited. It is also forbidden to bring glass items into the production hall. Similarly, smoking cigarettes while working with food is strictly prohibited. In order to avoid physical threats in ecological food production, the most important thing is prevention, such as elimination of potential sources of physical hazards with the plant, systematic employee training programs including personal hygiene training, regular inspections of equipment, avoiding temporary makeshift repairs, and inspection of raw materials and control of proper food storage. Examples of good practices in ecological food production are not using wood and glass where it's possible, protected lighting tubes and glass windows, for example, covered with protective foil. Control processes by using appropriate design of equipment, metal detectors in food processing. Using the detectable disposable cups with a metal strips, using pens and bent aid detectable by metal detector, protection against the entry of pests to production plants, good hygiene practice of employees, good sanitation, and quality control program. This slide shows the health effects for consumers caused by physical hazards in ecological food. The foreign object swallowed by potential consumers will cause minor to serious injury. Any hard or sharp object could be a physical hazard because it causes mouth or throat wounding. The possible injuries include cuts, bleedings, infections, choking, damage to the teeth or gums, trauma, and illness. Injuries sometimes require surgery to locate and remove. Mineral contaminants may often cause tooth breakage, cuts, and bleeding in the mouth or in the ossipals, as well as perforation of tissue of the gastrointestinal tract tissue, and a subsequent need for surgical intervention. Animal and plant contamination may cause disease, allergies, poisoning, and even stronger consequences such secondary infection associated with this type of injury. Let me briefly summarize your knowledge of the physical hazards during ecological food production. Physical hazards are additional matter or alien objects normally not existing in food that cause injury, disease, or psychological trauma to the organism. Physical contaminants include mineral, plant, and animal substances supplied to food during the harvest of raw material, during their storage, and during food processing. Glass or transparent plastic is almost impossible to detect in the product and possesses an extremely dangerous threat to the consumer. Personnel participating in the various stages of ecological food production may cause physical hazards through inappropriate production practices. Therefore, hygiene training is needed for all employees taking part in ecological food production. You should be aware of the serious health effect on food consumers of physical hazards and better prevent them. For more information, please read the project website. Thank you for your attention.